Hello, everybody. So, really quick, before we get started on this live, this is probably my first live stream on LinkedIn and on YouTube at the same time using StreamYard. So, if there are any hiccups or anything, just giving you a fair warning. This is my first time being on StreamYard by myself. Usually, when I've done these recordings in the past, I usually have other people with me so we can easily navigate. So, I think I can view some comments. Today's live is really just an impromptu live, kind of just to give you. Today actually marks a full year since my post went viral on LinkedIn, and that triggered this cascade of growth over the past 12 months. So I wanted to jump on here and, first of all, share this moment with everyone here. Thank you so much for following me. Thank you for all of your support, for engaging with my content, for reading my content, for messaging me, and for applying what you learn more specifically, more important than anything. Um, I think one of the biggest things, looking back, one of the biggest things for anyone that's just starting out and like starting to create content and stuff like that, one of the biggest things that I can say made a big difference is really making it kind of like a disciplined thing of like sharing content and sharing valuable information that other people maybe they are struggling with, or whatever the case is. If you post like helpful tutorials and valuable content, people are actually going to resonate with that, and people are going to find it useful and helpful, and they'll stick around and they'll want to learn more. So with that in mind, I decided to do a live stream today, probably my second or third live stream ever on this LinkedIn profile. um, so I do apologize in advance if there are any hiccups or anything. um, if you are not following me on YouTube, the YouTube name is just Izzy AI. Feel free to follow me over there. You can subscribe. It's same deal. It's social media, but essentially on YouTube, I post a lot of videos, a lot of tutorials around AI marketing and sales. I actually started YouTube at the beginning of this year because it was highly requested by the LinkedIn community, and I decided, okay, sure, I'll expand. I'll start posting some videos over there, which then trickled into posting more videos on LinkedIn, and all in all, it's been a really fun experience. Now, in the past year, AI has really changed a lot. And when I first started covering AI publicly, we were just talking about like ChatGPT 3.5 and maybe the initial stages of ChatGPT 4, but it really it really feels like forever ago. Um, and how much ChatGPT and how much really everything has changed. Everything has evolved tremendously. Where a year ago, AI generated images would be like not that great, and AI generated videos would be like terrible. And now you have OpenAI coming out with crazy AI generated videos and stuff like that. So it's really interesting how much everything is changing. It's really interesting how much life is changing. Um, and I think if there's anything that I can kind of just share with you today, I know it might seem hard. I know maybe it's like challenging, or you're scared to post, or you don't know what to post, or whatever it is. You really never know what's going to happen unless you actually start posting. So that's like probably the biggest learning lesson out of everything. Um, I think when it comes down to, as I started posting more and more and more about AI and stuff like that, one of the things that I know that it's a little challenging to do is also finding your own voice, right? So, how do you find your own voice? How do you know what to post? How do you know uh, what to say, and your opinions and stuff like that? And I know everything, it can feel a little challenging, and maybe it is a little difficult, but the more that you do it, the easier it gets. So, let me just double check here. I'm not sure if I can see the comments. I don't know if I integrated this correctly. Let me just see if there's any comments. If anyone does have any questions or anything pops up, just let me know. Maybe it might take like a minute or so for it to like populate over here on StreamYard. But if anyone does have any questions, feel free to drop it in the comments and I'll answer them. Um, anyway, so what I was saying, if there is probably one of the biggest lessons is just post. You can learn as you go. You can try different things. You can try different offers. If you like see my trajectory over the past 12 months, because AI was so new, I tested a lot of different offers. I tested doing a lot of different, uh, just different offers just to see which one. Couple of things, which one I would actually enjoy more, and which one was kind of like in high demand and all these different things, and the whole thing was very interesting. You might have seen me post, especially if you follow me and you've been, following all the content. I post a lot of like real life examples and tutorials of what I'm currently working on. So you might have already seen me post like strategies of how I'm like generating sales or offers that I'm monetizing, whatever the case is. I think that's really important. Another thing that's really important. I know that and I also like say this from experience, right? I know that posting is hard. I know that getting out there is hard, and I know that putting offers is hard and selling on the internet is hard. I understand that, especially in the beginning. But the more that you do it, the easier it gets, right? So I've been doing like online sales really for maybe like 4 or 5 years. And probably before that, but it was just not really successful the first couple of years, right? It was just very much starting, trying to learn everything, trying to like the first offer that I ever launched online, first ever, it was after watching a Lewis Howes webinar on how to sell via webinars back in like 2017. And I was working at a smoothie shop at the time. And I had actually, it was a really cool moment because I was working in a smoothie shop. I was also working as a private chef. And one of those days, I saw an ad by Lewis Howes. I watched this whole entire webinar on how to sell webinars, and I was like, let me try it. And Zoom didn't exist back then, so it was like very clunky trying to find the right software. Everything was different. I didn't have an audience. I didn't even have anything to sell. And I just said, let me try it. And I did. And I had two friends from high school that I haven't like really connected with in a while. They joined the webinar, and it was very interesting. Um, but you know, if you actually think about that, I kept going and going and going and going, and then next thing you know, now I'm doing webinars. I'm doing this like impromptu live. I don't really do webinars that often, but I do like boot camps and I do like virtual events, and it leads to like corporate workshops and public speaking, all these things that I would have never imagined had I not gone through the first stages of actually starting to post and share my journey. And I think when you actually think about sharing your journey and sharing your content in that lens, it also takes a little bit of pressure out of it because it doesn't have to be perfect if you're talking about your own experiences. And if you look at my content, a lot of it is just coming from my experiences, like what I'm experiencing, what I'm going through, what I'm trying and testing, what I'm finding, what I'm discovering, and it's all my experiences. So like no one can really, if you like suffer from imposter syndrome, right? If you're posting your actual tests, right, and your actual results and stuff like that, no one can take that away from you because it's yours. You're actually living through that. So it's a completely different way of thinking about content, right? Because now you're not thinking about uh the next viral post or like whatever the strategies are. Now you're actually thinking of how can I post content that had I been the way that I think about it is how can I post content that can help the person that's following along in this same path that they can do the same thing faster, easier without headaches, right? And I kind of keep that mentality around. So I think when you're posting content and stuff like that, depending on your own strategies and depending on your offer, of course, and all these different things, then it's going to be different, but it's going to be similar in the framework of it, if that makes sense. Like your content's going to be different because it's unique to your experience, but the people that you're speaking to, I don't know if that's making sense, right? I don't want to confuse you guys. The content that you're creating, um the content you're creating for people is going to be helpful to them. It might be the same framework that I'm using, right? Sharing my documenting my journey, sharing my experiments, sharing all of my things. And in the process, if you didn't realize this already, but in the process, it's also creating credibility and authority. So you're also building yourself up. So if you're doing like lead generation, for example, and you're wondering, why am I not getting leads? Why am I not getting sales? All these different things. It it like I really don't want to sound like a broken record, but it does boil down to content. Everything becomes better and easier when you have content, especially what I'm discovering right now with like YouTube long form. So before YouTube long form, my only perception of YouTube prior to this was short form, right? I spent like 2 years of my life really mastering short form video. And what I'm realizing is that long form video is actually generating way better quality leads because the people that are watching the long form, they're actually learning about my processes. They're learning about my, all the things that I do and all these different things. So when I actually get on a call with them, they're very, very, very warmed up to my processes and how I can help them and all these things, that it makes the conversation so much easier. So it all it really all boils down to content. Now I'm doing this like live on LinkedIn. I have no idea how long I'll be on here, but I did want to just come on here and just share. It's been a full year. Things that have changed. For example, I went from like 2,000 followers to like 30. I don't know how much, like 37,000 followers or something. So it's like 35,000 new followers in a 12-month period without ads, without engagement pods, without doing all those things. Just like 100% real, authentic effort and energy. And again, if you look at the stuff that I'm posting, is helpful stuff. Like, I'm not gatekeeping. Of course I have offers, of course I sell things, but it's not like the leading thing, right? I focus on building relationships, I focus on sharing helpful content, I focus on sharing like all these different things, and as a byproduct of that, it generates sales and it generates opportunities and it generates things like, I did a lot of different corporate workshops last year. I traveled a lot last year for a bunch of different opportunities, something that I wasn't doing before. And again, I wouldn't have started had I not actually started by posting content. So if you have any questions or if you want to ask me anything, feel free to drop it in the comments. I don't know if I integrated this thing correctly. Let me check here. Um, so yeah, I see a comment here. What software are you using for the live, StreamYard or Restream? I'm using StreamYard. I don't know if it's good enough. I guess we'll see. I guess we will see. But yeah, this is my first live that I do with StreamYard. The last time that I did a live by myself here on LinkedIn, it was a mess. I scheduled an event, and then when I went live, it didn't go live inside of the event. LinkedIn is so confusing for these lives. So yeah, if there are any like hiccups or anything, I promise I will get better. Practice makes perfect. And again, this goes back to what I was saying, right? I'm trying something that I'm not even 100% sure how LinkedIn Live fully operates. Usually I'm like a guest, so I don't have to worry about the tech, but I'm willing to go through these. I'm willing to take this messy action, and if it messes up, maybe my mic is off. I don't know, right? We'll figure this out later. But the only way that I'll learn and the only way that I'll get better is by actually doing it. So if there is anything, it is Motivational Monday, I guess, right? But if there is anything that you can take away from this live, I know that it's hard. I know that everyone's putting pressure on, especially influencers are putting pressure on people to like, you should have been a millionaire by now. You should have done this. You should have done that. And I think it's important to remember that everybody has their own journey. Everything that I have done up to this point it's made sense the way that my life has kind of like panned out, right? Everything that maybe I didn't see it back then, but because of my journey, I was able to understand social media. I was able to understand all these different things. And now by the time that it's actually, what is that famous quote, like preparation, uh I can't remember the quote. Something like when you're prepared, it's not luck, it's like success or something. So, and that's kind of like what had happened by always learning, by always being curious about how marketing and how sales work. By the time that AI hit around the corner, I had all this knowledge that I kind of hit it when the iron was hot. And it's because I'm just always actively learning, and I think that that's one of the most important things that I'm always encouraging people to do, which you're probably going to hear me talk a little bit more about this in the next few weeks. But I already kind of started mentioning this. Uh, if you haven't heard already, I'm starting this thing called the 1% AI Elite Ecosystem. And, I'm probably like, this is kind of just like a soft mention. I'm probably going to start mentioning this more in the next couple of weeks, but just to give you a little sneak peek. So, in this past year, the one thing that I noticed, this is a big learning experience for anyone that's building startups and coaching and whatever you're selling. This is a really big learning experience. In the past year, I tested different offers and I tested different things and I posted different content. I spoke to different target groups and stuff like that. And there's one thing that always kept coming back. Number one, AI is changing. So whatever conversation I would have like now from 6 months ago, things have changed a lot. So even our offers have to change. And secondly, because AI is always changing, the people that we work with, a lot of the things, it's like you have to keep updating them and stuff like that. So I love to learn, and I realized that one of our offers, we were showing people how to do, build some funnels and do some things, And I realized that with the market always changing and AI always changing, having a cohort like that is kind of like a little bit of a short-sighted vision. And I started realizing this because if AI is always changing and we're obviously, always growing, always evolving, then there needs to be a container for that. And I started realizing, like in our group, I would start sharing like things that are not really relevant to the offer they purchased, but it was just added value. Like when I figured out how to do AI avatars, immediately I told the group, here's how you do AI avatars, here's how you do this, here's how you do virtual events, here's how you install agents. And I realized that this is more than just a cohort. This is an actual community. So that's kind of how the idea for the 1% came around. It was like I kind of didn't see the full picture back then, but right now there are a lot of AI influencers, AI creators. There's a lot of brilliant minds out there for like marketing, sales, customer service. There's a lot of talent, but what we don't have is an ecosystem where all of us can come together and collaborate, learn from each other, learn from other coaches, learn from other experts, and have all the tools and all the updates. So that's kind of a little bit about what the 1% is. If you are interested in learning more, feel free to send me a message. Um, we're kind of just starting to talk about it. It's not in full launch mode yet, but if you do want to learn more, feel free to reach out. Um, so, anyways, it's called 1%, and the reason why is because I realized another fundamental thing, especially if you're starting something, right? If you're starting or if you're already like building something, these are things that I have discovered in the past like 6 to 8 months of working with a lot of businesses, especially coaches, consultants, creators, anyone that's starting software businesses or agencies. This is like the biggest thing that I learned. And if you're listening right now, I hope that you find value in this because this is actually going to make a big impact if you haven't already implemented this. If the other discovery that I had was everyone's overcomplicating everything, right? And myself included. I'm guilty of overcomplicating things a lot in the past, but everyone's overcomplicating things. In reality, what I have discovered is that you don't need a million offers. Like, you don't need to have 5 different businesses. You just need one niche, one avatar, one offer, and one funnel. And that funnel can have multiple capacities, but you just need one of everything. And if you focus and you just like laser focus on that, you're going to be successful because you're going to learn. First of all, you're going to learn a lot along the way, right? So let's say that your niche is, I don't know, wealth, right? You're usually have 3 king niches: wealth, relationships, and health. So let's say that your king niche that you choose is wealth. That means you're going to help a business generate more income somehow, right? You're going to help them, whether it's lead generation, ads, whatever it is you're doing, you're going to help them generate more wealth. Now, let's say that for that specific offer, let's say that you're going to sell Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads. Let's just say LinkedIn ads. So let's say you're going to sell LinkedIn ads to e-commerce businesses, right? So if you're starting an agency that's going to show CEOs how to run LinkedIn ads for e-commerce, that in alone is its offer. But then when people start making it complicated is when they start saying, I'm going to offer LinkedIn ads, but in addition, I'm going to offer, X, Y, and Z, and this, and this, and this, and all these different things. Next thing you know, they're offering like 5 products. And it's really hard to grow and scale 5 products unless you have a team or the infrastructure to do that. So I realize that this is the biggest thing that holds people back, and it gets people to like really question and really like, they overwhelm themselves, they confuse themselves. So I realized that you really just need one of everything. And in addition to that, this is where like the 1% comes from. In addition to that, you also need to be willing to be the 1% of LinkedIn creators that are posting content. It doesn't have to be perfect content, doesn't have to be viral content. All of that is a byproduct of posting consistently, right? So I realized that aside from picking one of everything, you also need to be willing to be the 1%. The 1% that's posting on LinkedIn, the 1% that's actually implementing AI in their business, the 1% that's actually willing to be the 1% of top income earners. So that's kind of where the whole 1% mentality came around. And then one of the things that I always tell people, one of my favorite quotes is always like, be 1% better today than you were yesterday. So it compounds. Your growth is compounding. And so it just made sense. Like, if I'm going to start a community, if I'm going to start this like ecosystem filled with like top talent and filled with people that really want more out of life, it just has to be called the 1%. So that's kind of how the whole idea came out around it. So let me just double check here. I don't know if I don't know if I set up this whole comment thing correctly, so I'm just double checking. Anyway, so that's kind of a little bit what I had in mind. I don't know how long I'm gonna be here tonight. If you do have any questions, feel free to let me know. I guess I'll use this opportunity also to mention, if you're not following me over on YouTube, go ahead and head over to YouTube. It's just Izzy AI. I'll probably post a link in the comments right after this. Um, but yeah, I really can't thank everyone enough for all of your support over the past year and beyond, and for how much things really have changed. Another thing that I noticed is more of a personal growth thing, but another thing that I've noticed is, aside from business, right? Aside from like the monetizing your LinkedIn and creating all this like income and all these things, another thing that I also realize is that it takes time for you to also step into your own power. And again, I see this time and time again, and I've gone through this as well, but I see this a lot with like uh just people that I've worked with. And I think that that is something that no one really talks about. Like, sure, you can work with a coach that tells you tomorrow you're going to charge $50,000 for an offer, and if you've never done that before, your head's gonna explode and you're gonna be like, whoa, how am I gonna do that? And then it's gonna be analysis paralysis. Or you might be the opposite way. You might be, that's awesome, let's go, let's do it, and boom, you go. But the difference in person, there's two different types of people: the people that are ready to receive that, and the people that still need a lot of self-growth to actually receive that, right? So the people that need a lot of self-growth in that scenario, most likely, and I'm not attacking anyone, but it's just things that I've learned. um Person that's ready to receive, you'll see that they're actually gonna go in and go full force, and they're actually gonna generate those clients, they're gonna generate results, and whatever it is. But they did the internal work, so they had a growth mindset, they had the perseverance to actually try, and they had the attitude to fall and fail and try and try and try, versus the person that's more like, mm, that sounds cool. I don't know if I'm gonna receive. I don't know if I'm ready to receive that. I don't know how that's gonna work for me. Uh, I have a million questions. I have analysis paralysis. Maybe one day I'll do it. And usually these types of people, there's nothing wrong with being there, right? Like we've all been there. I've been there too. But you have to do the inner work to actually step up to the next level. And again, I'm speaking this from like my own experience, so you guys might have different journeys. But I've seen this time and time again. The second that you actually start doing the inner work, and not to get like too woo woo and all of that, but the second that you start doing the inner work, that you start actually empowering yourself, building your own confidence, posting your own thoughts and theories and tests that you're doing, that builds your own trust with yourself, that builds your own credibility with your audience, your own brand authority, right? You become this like mad scientist of whatever it is that you're doing. And just by doing that, you start stepping into your power. So one of the biggest things that I see when someone transitions from like a normal job to like entrepreneurship, the price is too low. They try to charge $50 an hour, $100 an hour, or maybe they try to charge maybe 100, maybe $200, $300 a month for their services. And you have to understand that when you're pricing things, you have to price based on value, right? So this is just probably going to be a way bigger conversation. But when you're pricing things, especially pricing things, you have to price based on on value, meaning on how much value you can generate the business, depending on what it is that you're actually selling. But the way to increase the price is not just in that component, in that like rational component. A lot of it also comes from your own conviction of whether or not you can raise the price. And the way to grow that conviction is to just grow your own personal, limiting beliefs if you have them, or your own personal growth. So I'm not saying like wake up tomorrow and just charge everyone $20,000 just because you're worth it. I'm saying like build up your confidence so that when you're in a conversation and you're in a scenario where you can charge $20,000 because of the value they're going to provide, you are confident and ready to receive. And that's another little tip that I've learned in the process. So just want to share that with you as well. I'm aware everyone has their own journeys and their own I'm aware that everyone has their own journeys and their own path, but those are just a few things that I've learned. So I think I'm gonna call it a night for now. Thank you so much for tuning in if you've joined, and again, thank you so much for all of your support for the past year, and more continued growth coming soon, more continued content, and everything else coming soon. So thank you so much for watching this live stream. If you have any questions, post them below. I'll make sure to comment back. And that's it for tonight. Thank you so much. Bye bye.